That Representative Jesus Chuy Garcia is now working to remove barriers that he says create a disadvantage for everyday youth.
Yeah, the congressman is one of 14 lawmakers who are introducing the Connecting Youth to Jobs Act, which aims to create better employment opportunities for young Americans. We've got Congressman Chuy Garcia joining us this morning. Good morning to you, Congressman. Thanks for coming on Good Day Chicago.
Good morning. Great to join you this morning.
Well, we're happy that you're here. All right, so talk to us about this bill. Who are you looking to help?
So last Friday, we filed this bill. This bill seeks to create job opportunities for young people who have faced barriers getting a job and keeping a job. It targets youth of color, out of school and out of work youth, low income youth, youth that are experiencing homelessness, youth that have become parents in their teenage years. We're targeting especially youth between the ages of 14 and 24. They're the ones that are facing these obstacles, and we think this would be a very important part of the recovery of our economy in the post-pandemic period, knock on wood. And of course, it would benefit cities that are experiencing a lot of violence, especially as it relates to young people.
So, Congressman, your timing is interesting because we are reporting more and more, it seems, with every passing day about companies hanging out shingles and nobody's applying for these jobs. And yet in your bill, you talk specifically about barriers for employment, particularly among people of color. So talk a little bit, what's the sticking point? Why are these people not getting jobs when there are so many jobs to be had?
Well, I think that what you're seeing is a lot of workers, to a degree, reluctant to return to work because they earn wages that are very low, one, or they don't have the type of daycare providers that they need in order to return to work. And many of them still have, I think, skepticism about how safe it is to return to work. What we're trying to address is a longer existing condition, especially in inner cities across the country, where young people, especially people of color, have faced these barriers. And some of the measures that we include in the bill is wrap around services. We consulted with affected young people. We consulted with organizations that provide these wraparound services, including mental health, including childcare, including other supports, mental health supports that are very critical to helping people find jobs and keep jobs. It doesn't do anyone any good for someone to start a job and then, because they don't have the types of supports that they need, the wraparound services, they wind up leaving those jobs. It doesn't help that individual, it doesn't help the communities that they live in, which tend to be among the most disinvested and neglected communities that have endured cycles of poverty, cycles of neglect and disinvestment. This bill seeks to change that, and it comes at a very important time when Congress will be debating and working with the White House on the American Jobs Bill as well as the American Family Plan. We believe that this can be absorbed into that legislation and make an impact to create healthier, safer communities across the country.
Okay, so Congressman, you're talking about $10 billion or so. This is grant money. So you're going to then dole this out, from what I understand here, to organizations who will then help the people. So if you're an organization that wants to help people, how do you access that funding?
Well, the jobs bill, connecting youth to jobs, first of all, is a larger bill, probably for a total of about $40 billion. That's where the potential for impact across cities and the country. The $10 billion would be allocated to organizations to form partnerships to support young people in accessing and keeping these jobs. These are the folks that provide the critical services that will help ensure success of program participants. And I just want to underscore, Anita, that two of my first jobs as a young man in the Pilsen and Little Village communities were Mayor Daley's Summer Youth Employment Program, and later through the Comprehensive Employment Training Act, a federal legislative program. Those are jobs that made a huge difference in my life and in the lives of other youth who had access to those jobs. Many of those jobs had not existed in places like Chicago for a long time. We're talking about bringing those back, but providing the opportunities and the support systems to ensure that communities have a shot at being peaceful, being healthy, and of course, to bring income to those communities as well.
I had no idea that you started out that way, and look at you now.
So this week,
you never know.
Congressman, President Biden's hitting the road. He's trying to sell the infrastructure package that we already know is being tapered, it seems, by the day by Republicans who are now very mindful of how much we've spent, particularly during the pandemic, dating back to President Trump. There are a lot of people watching the dollars flowing out of Washington. I know you've got some support, particularly among Democrats. How confident are you that you're going to get bipartisan support on this?
Well, I think that the measures that we've taken, the COVID relief measures, including the American Rescue Plan, have been very well received by voters across the country, regardless of political parties. The polling shows that the measures, as it relates to an infrastructure investment and the American Jobs Program, are very popular with voters, Republican, Independents, and Democrats, and thus the potential for success and why Congress needs to act. I think that in the end, there may be a bill that some Republicans will support, many others won't, but we believe that passing this legislation at this point in time to address our badly outdated infrastructure system that is crumbling before our eyes, as well as continued support for families across the country, is critical to a fair and just recovery so that our economy can serve everyone and provide opportunities to employment and prosperity.
Congressman, I want to talk to you a little bit about a letter that you and some of your Democratic colleagues sent recently to immigration officials. You, along with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, as well as other congressmen, are saying that there needs to be an immigration overhaul, and I think a lot of people would agree with you. But you're also fighting for the right to not send back some of the gang members. Can you clarify why that might be, if we're understanding that correctly? Because here in Chicago, as you know, we've got a tremendous gang problem, and it results in a lot of loss of life.
We're talking about a due process. We're not talking about not holding people accountable for crimes that they have committed. We're saying that the criminal justice system ought to sit on its own footing, and the immigration system shouldn't be tied to that. In other words, if someone goes to the criminal justice system and the reforms, of course, that are being made to it, and they're held accountable for offenses that they have committed, that it should end there. That the fact that they are an immigrant shouldn't automatically put them in a pipeline to either mass detention, incarceration, or deportation. People should be held accountable for actions that they take, but they also should not be subjected to punishment that they may have for actions that they may have taken as a young person, as a juvenile, and it winds up affecting them for the rest of their life, separating them from their family, and essentially prohibiting them from engaging in rehabilitation or a second chance.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that, Congressman. We do appreciate that. And we appreciate you taking the time to join us this morning on our show.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Good to see you.
7:30.